Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Thursday live. It is noon on Thursday. Every week at this time, I'm going to be going live with a relevant topic, something that I've pulled from our group, something that I've pulled from my coaching sessions with parents, and something that I think is really timely and informative and helpful for you, for all the parents out there. Now, if this is our first time meeting, I'm Sharon. I'm a registered psychotherapist and I am a parent coach. And my mission in life is to help make sense of parenting for the parents out there who are overwhelmed and overstressed and honestly, maybe oversaturated with all the information that's out there and just not knowing where to start, not knowing how to put some really important things into practice. So that's what I want to do for everybody in this group and in my lives. And so today we're going to be talking about power struggles. And this is a topic that comes up in every parent coaching program group one-on-one with every parent. It is something that is experienced regardless of what stage of parenting you're at. So let's think about, what does a power struggle look like? Well, if you haven't seen a power struggle, I'd be shocked, but let's just talk about it in the different stages. So maybe your power struggle that you've experienced has to do with your toddler, and it is the battle of the shoes. You know, you ask your child to come put their shoes on, and they say no, and they run away. And then you get into this resistance battle where you're saying, put them on, let's put on the shoes, we have to go. And they're saying no. And the more you want to control them, the more they resist. So that would be the battle of the shoes. That's a typical power struggle in a toddler experience. But how about your school age child? So for a school age child, it might look like the battle of homework. So a child comes home from school and they say, I'm not doing my homework. I hate homework. I hate it. I'm never doing it. And you get into the battle of, wanting to, maybe reward them for doing it. Maybe you're going to offer, some special trip, some ice cream, something if they do the homework. Maybe you're going to threaten to take something away. So you get into that battle of wills with them. Okay, so that would be a school age example. How about a teenage example? So a teenage example might be the battle of the curfew, where you expect them to come home at a certain time and they're like, no, everybody else gets to stay out later. Why do I have to be the only one who comes home at that time? Why do you have to be so mean? And you now are caught between concerns for their safety and also wanting to avoid a meltdown and a big explosion in the house. So those are some examples of typical power struggles that you might be experiencing. And if you're watching this live and you want to pop something in the chat about a power struggle that's happened to you, feel free to do that. But really, what I want to bring us to now is this idea of our how we approach power struggles and some of the language that we use and some of the thoughts that we have around those power struggles. So even the term power struggle, in it is this idea of control and this idea of maybe defiance. We talk about our kids, defying us or being defiant. We talk about them testing us, right? Oh, my child was testing me or testing the limits. We talk about those experiences in terms of uh, who's going to win, right? Like there's a winner and a loser, and they're trying to win or we're trying to win. It becomes like a battle of who's the boss and who's in charge, right? So here's what I want to tell you about that. Here's the news. The news is that your child isn't trying to control you for the sake of control. They're not trying to control the situation for the sake of control. They're not trying to push your buttons even though you feel that buttons have been pushed. They're not trying to frustrate you even though their behavior is frustrating. They're not trying to do anything to you they're actually not even fighting against you. They're actually fighting for something. And the more we seek to control them, the more resistance they're going to offer, the more they're going to dig their heels in. Because really what's happening is it's not at all about control and resistance. It's about needs either being met or being unmet. Okay? So all behavior stems from a need that is, well, let's say all challenging behavior in our kids stems from a need that is unmet, a need that is not being met. Now, they're children, so they don't really have awareness about their needs. That's something we're going to guide them and we're going to help them understand along the way as we do this work and we understand our own needs, because all human beings have needs. Needs are human. Needs are foundational to our existence as people and as human beings. In relationship, we seek to get our needs met and to understand our needs, and we have feelings around our needs. So when human beings experience pleasant, comfortable feelings, that will mean that their needs are being met. When humans experience uncomfortable feelings, that is a sign that our needs are unmet. And when we have unmet needs that lead to uncomfortable feelings, and we're a child who doesn't have the skill set yet to manage uncomfortable feelings, that's going to show up in behaviors that are challenging for us as parents. Okay? So we're going to shift the mindset around what these power struggles are and what they mean. And we're going to move ourselves into a different way of experiencing our child and experiencing ourselves in those moments. Okay? So here's going to be what I call the tall order. So the tall order is that you're going to have to approach the situations in a different way. So we're going to do this in steps. The first step, let's say in the example of the toddler who you've asked them to come and get their shoes on and they've said no and they've run away to the kitchen. So the first step before you do anything is to pause. That's step one. You're going to pause. You're going to check in with how you feel, and you're going to take a breath. Now, every situation outside from some kind of natural disaster, emergency, or fire in your house, you have time to take a breath. And your breath is always available to you. Now, it is very simple and very small, but the possibilities that are open to you as a result are huge and massive. So pausing to check in when your child says no and runs away, looks like this. You're going to pause for a second. You're going to say, wow, what am I feeling? What am I feeling in response to my child running away? I'm going to guess your feelings could be many, but I'm going to use frustration as the example today. So you're feeling frustrated. Just the action and experience of you pausing to check in is going to shift your energy, which will change the next thing you do. Just that one thing. So if you do nothing else, the pause is something to practice. Pausing to see how you feel and check in to yourself and recognize that you're feeling frustrated or unheard or like you don't matter, whatever it is. Check in with the feeling. You will be less likely to be reactive in the next moment and more likely to be responsive, which is a game changer for how things unfold with your child, but more importantly, it's a game changer for your relationship with your child. And everything, all of our work together is about your relationship with your child being at the foundation. Also, your child experiences your energy. When we talk about the environment that we want our child to live in, and we think about the home, we want our home to be comfortable, we want their bedroom environment to be, organized, we want their, the environment of their bed, their bedding. We talk about environment all the time. In our house, we want, maybe you want plants in your environment. You are an environment. You are an energetic environment, and your child is experiencing your energy all the time. So, the act of pausing and checking in and taking a breath will shift your energy, even if it's 1%. And your child will feel a different energy than the one that keeps you in resistance and in that power struggle. Okay? So there's so much power in that pause. And that's why it's the first thing to practice is to just pause. Okay, so now you've paused, you've checked in, you've taken a breath. Step 2 is to get curious. So in the old model, we're going to be in resistance. We're going to be trying to get our child to whatever it is, insert behavior. And that is a control model and it's a compliance model where we're just looking on the surface of behavior, but we're not looking beneath the surface and we're not curious as to why. Why is my child running away? Right? We get so stuck in what has to happen. We get so stuck in our to-do list. And we get stuck in the mindset of I have to get them to, that we don't see the child beneath the behavior. And we lose sight of our relationship with them. And that our job starts with us seeing them and getting curious, right? I wonder why they're running to the kitchen. Just ask yourself, get curious. Are they tired? Are they hungry? Are they overwhelmed? Do they need attention? Okay, let's talk about attention for a second. I hear parents say this all the time. Oh, this was a problem, blah, blah, blah. My child just needed attention. When did it happen that parents all over the place decided that a child needing attention was something that we could dismiss, or that was something that was their problem, and that somehow we judge that need for attention as not being valuable? So I want to insert this here. Every time you think that thought, oh, they just need attention, I want you to substitute that for my child needs connection, because that's what attention is. When they want your attention, you're basically saying they want you to stop what you're doing, look at them, see them, hear them, be invested in whatever it is they're doing or saying. And all of those things are about connection. And actually, if you didn't see my live last week, you can check out the recording because it was all about connection. So get curious. Get curious about why it is that they're acting this way. I function from the belief that all behavior makes sense. All behavior makes sense. That there is always a reason for behavior. That's very different than me saying I like the behavior, I welcome the behavior, keep doing the behavior. Very different. But for me to function in the world, for us to function in the world as relational beings, and especially parents, having the belief that all behavior makes sense instantly makes me more curious. And being curious as a parent is a superpower. It's a superpower. So getting curious. I'll give you an example. If you have a baby, so a young toddler without very much language, and you put their shoes on them, and then, they start to walk, or maybe you're carrying them, but they're just fussy. You've put the shoes on and now they're just fussy. They're fussy, they're whining, they're complaining, they're crying a little. They kick off the shoe, you put the shoes back on, they kick them off again. And what's happening to you? You're in resistance. You're frustrated. You're like, oh my God, why can't they just keep their shoes on? I don't under, putting the shoes on, we have to go. And then after a while, once they kick off the shoe one more time, and a rock comes out of the shoe, and you realize there was a pebble in the shoe, right? There was a good reason for their resistance, for their whining, for their unhappiness, for their emotionality. You could see the rock, so that was an easy one. But it's an example of a parent who in a situation doesn't get curious, doesn't stop to get curious, and just stays on the surface, wishing that the child's behavior was different, and expecting the child's behavior to just be different because their behavior now is problematic for you. If you've paused and checked in, and you've noticed that you're frustrated, and you've taken a breath, you will have reduced that immediately. So pause, check in, and take a breath. Get curious. Wonder. I wonder why. And even better, you can tell yourself there must be a good reason for this. Just tell yourself that and be curious what it is. Okay? Step 3 is about avoiding blame. It's about avoiding saying things like always and never. Right? Parents can get into this mode when they're in that resistance, when they're in the battle of it, when they're not getting curious and going beneath the surface, of saying things like, you never listen to me when I ask you to do this, or you always do this, you always run away, you always say you're not going to do your homework. Always and never. That's blaming language. It's keeping you in the battle. Keeping you in the battle. So instead of doing that, you're going to describe what's happening, right? So in the example of the toddler, or even the preschooler, come get your shoes on, we have to go. No, and they run away. Describe what happened. Oh, wow, so I asked you to come get your shoes on, and you've run away to the kitchen. What's going on? Right? With an energy and a tone that is more curious and more interested than blaming and frustrated, right? You've come home from school and you've said you don't want to do your homework, that you hate it, and you threw your bag down. I watched you throw your bag down over in the corner, and I really see you don't look very happy. I wonder what's going on. I wonder what's going on. Allow them to experience your wonder. Be curious, but then allow them to experience you having seen them. Wow, I can see it on your face. I can see that you're really unhappy about this, or I can see that you really don't want to do it, right? Give them the experience of being seen, being witnessed, that you are interested in what's going on for them. That alone can be a game changer. Being in resistance to them is going to cause them to dig their heels in. But when you actually choose to see them in their emotional experience and in their behavioral experience, and reflect back what you see, they will be less likely to resist and more likely to communicate with you and more likely to align. You're opening that door where you say, the door is open, all feelings are welcome. I see you, I get it. You don't want to do this thing, whatever it is. And I see that. So in that moment, you don't seek to change a thing because their behavior is telling you that there's a need that's not met. Most often, the need is for connection. And connection is about pausing and seeing them and hearing them and witnessing them and reflecting for them that they matter. And sometimes that can be enough. Okay? So we've paused, we've checked in, we've taken a breath, we've gotten curious. We have expressed what we see, our observation. And now you're going to explain to them the situation and what your need is, basically. But here's the key about that is that kids need to understand why something matters. It's not helpful to their wellness to just be told to do things and to be experiencing control for the sake of control. So just like I said earlier, you might think they're trying to control the situation for the sake of control. They experience you that same way. So help them understand why this is important. Help them understand that when you ask them to clean up all the Lego that's all over the basement floor, explain to them, I see all the Lego is all over the basement floor, and I'm worried that someone might get hurt. Like you're expressing, why does this matter? And it could matter to you for many reasons. That's just one example. You have to know what the reason is for you. But that's why you need to be reflective as a parent too. But let them know what the problem is. Otherwise, you're just saying, if you say, clean up all your Lego, well, that's a command. And you're not seeing them. You're not seeing what matters to them, and you're not explaining to them why this matters to you. So kids are going to want to cooperate with you more when they understand why. So you're trying to get out the door and you say, I need to get to this appointment on time, and I can see that, this is a problem for you to get the shoes on. What can we do together? So you're inviting them to collaborate. That's the last step in it, is inviting them to collaborate with you. What can we do? Right? Some of those things are going to be easy fixes, like with the, toddler or preschooler, you can say, do you want me to lift you up onto the counter? Do you want to sit next to me? Do you want to sit on my lap? You're going to offer them some things that work for you, but invite them to collaborate with you. Invite them to offer something, especially as they get older. They'll have more that they can contribute. But even as they're younger, this practice will grow and evolve, just like your relationship does, and as they develop. So starting to practice these things, even when they're very little, is really, really beneficial for those of you who are parenting in early parenting with young kids. And if you have a child who's a little bit older, you can actually either start to employ these things and you can bring them in to what you're doing. So if this is going to be vastly different than what they've ever experienced with you before, if you pause for a second and they look at you and they're like, what are you doing? Let them in. Say, I'm practicing something new. I'm practicing something new so that we don't have to battle with each other. I'm practicing something new to see if maybe this works better. If you're open with them, especially in the long game, because we're playing a long game of parenting, because you are raising a full-grown adult, brick by brick. You're raising an adult who you want to have the capacity to understand how they feel, to understand that they have needs, to understand what it feels like to have their needs met, to understand what it feels like when their needs aren't met, to understand their top 5 needs, to be able to communicate those needs in relationship with other people, to have expectation that other people are willing to hear that, to collaborate with people so that everybody's needs get met. And here's the interesting thing that the research tells us is that it is possible in 80 to 90% of situations for both people to have their needs met. Both. It's not either or. It's not I win, you lose. It's not power over. It is with, both, and collaborative, relational experiences. So that is today's topic of power struggles. I am always curious to know what stood out for you, what was meaningful, what questions you might have. Pop them in the comments below. As always, I try to make sure that the weekly lives are going to be relevant. They're going to be responsive to what the people in this group need. So always message me, hit me up for something that you'd like to have me cover, and I will see you in the next live.